What's up, y'all? Got another video today. This video is titled Serial Killers Who Are Police Officers.
Gerard John Schaefer Jr., the killer cop. July 21st, 1972. Two teenage girls, Nancy Trotter and Pamela Wells, were hitchhiking near Fort Lauderdale, Florida, when a police officer pulled over and offered them a ride. He seemed official, professional, safe.
Yeah, bro. That's why I never get no ride from anybody, bro. It don't matter if you're the police, the ambulance. Well, like, if I needed help, obviously the ambulance. But, like, if it's like I'm on the street with somebody, I mean, honestly, I feel like as two females, like, you should never even be together just walking down the road in general. But yeah, honestly, that's all we have to say.
He was a Martin County Sheriff's deputy named Gerard Schaefer. The girls got in his patrol car. It was a decision they barely survived. Schaefer drove them to a remote wooded area, claiming he was taking them somewhere safe. Instead, he forced them from the car at gunpoint, marched them into the woods, tied them to trees, and placed nooses.
You gotta just stop allowing anybody to be a police officer, bro. You feel what I'm saying? Because it just be like, you know, like, you just never know, bro. That's why I don't really be trusting police officers either, bro, because you never know what they have in their mind or what they think they want to do or what they want to do with people. You know what I'm saying?
Around their necks. He left them there, terrified and helpless, saying he'd return. But before he could come back to finish what he'd started, another officer happened upon the scene during a routine patrol. Trotter and Wells were rescued. Schaefer was arrested. He was fired from the sheriff's department immediately. But investigators quickly realized that Schaefer's attempted abduction of Trotter and Wells wasn't an isolated incident. It was part of a pattern that had been going on for years. While searching Schaefer's home, police found a horrifying collection: jewelry, clothing, and personal items belonging to dozens of young women. They found graphic stories and drawings and personal items belonging to dozens of young women. They found graphic stories and drawings depicting torture, murder, and mutilation. They found detailed descriptions of hangings, stabbings, and sexual violence. Some appeared to be fiction. Others were clearly accounts of real crimes. In September 1972,
I ain't gonna lie, some of y'all people are just weird and evil, bro, in this world, bro. Well, not y'all, but just genuine, like, some genuine people are just, like, really weird, bro, in the world, bro.
girls, Susan Place and Georgia Jessup, were discovered on Hutchinson Island. They'd been missing since April. Both had been tied to trees, tortured, raped, shot, and hacked to death. The method matched exactly what Schaefer had attempted with Trotter and Wells. Physical evidence linked him to the crime scene. Schaefer was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder in 1973 and sentenced to 2 life terms. But investigators believe he killed many more. Personal items belonging to numerous missing women were found in his possession.
How did they not know this, though? You know what I'm saying? Like, how did it take this long for them to realize that he's been doing stuff like that?
Suspected in the disappearances of at least 30 young women and girls across Florida.
30? And y'all didn't know? Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, they might have been hiding this, bro.
What's particularly chilling about Schaefer is that he'd been using his authority as a police officer to commit these crimes for years before his arrest. He'd pick up hitchhikers, runaways, and young women traveling alone. His badge made them trust him.
That's why y'all females gotta stop being alone in general, bro. Like, just don't travel. Like, if you gonna be alone, just don't travel at all.
Patrol car made them feel safe, and he used that trust to torture and kill them. Schaefer was also known as the hangman because of his signature method. He'd bind his victims to trees with nooses around their necks, a sadistic ritual that gave him a sense of power and control. He later claimed, in letters and stories he wrote from prison, that he'd been killing since 1965, when he was just 19 years old. He boasted of killing women on 3 continents and claimed his victim count was between 80 and 110, though he could never remember exact details. Even in prison, Schaefer remained disturbing. He wrote graphic fiction that many believed were thinly veiled accounts of his real crimes. He filed frivolous lawsuits against anyone who called him a serial killer, despite the overwhelming evidence. He even claimed to have been friends with Ted Bundy, who was incarcerated in the same Florida prison, though Bundy dismissed Schaefer as a wannabe. On December 3rd, 1995, a fellow inmate entered Schaefer's cell and attacked him. The inmate slit his throat and stabbed him over 40 times, focusing on his eyes. Gerard Schaefer died at
definitely like, they did that on purpose.
Age 4.
Like, they did something on purpose. They knew what happened.
The man who'd used his badge to prey on vulnerable young women who tortured and killed for his own sadistic pleasure, met a violent end behind the same bars that had held many of his victims' stories. Mikhail Popkov, the werewolf. June 2012, Angarsk, Russia. Police investigators were conducting mandatory DNA testing of current and former police officers in the Irkutsk region. They were searching for a serial killer who'd been terrorizing the area for 2 decades. When they tested the DNA of Mikhail Popkov, a 48-year-old former officer, they got a match. The friendly, charismatic cop who everyone loved had been hiding a monstrous secret. Between 1992 and 2010, Popkov murdered at least 83 women, making him Russia's most prolific serial killer in history. He surpassed even Andrei Chikatilo.
I just don't be understanding the point of that, though. Like, why are you murdering people's kids and moms and aunts and sisters? Like, what do you gain from that? You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like what it really is just them thinking that. I mean, this was back then, so they probably think they weren't going to get caught since they're a police officer. Nobody would know. But it's just like, I don't understand. You'll be a police officer to do this stuff just to get the same consequence that you would if you weren't a police officer. You know what I'm saying?
The notorious Butcher of Rostov.
And
he did it all while working as a police officer and later as a security guard. Popkov's method was terrifyingly simple and effective. He'd patrol the streets of Angarsk in his police car or his personal vehicle, a Lada 4x4 off-road vehicle commonly used by law enforcement. He'd offer rides to women late at night, particularly those who were intoxicated or appeared to be sex workers. They'd get in the car because he was a cop. They trusted the badge. Once
sex workers would get in a police car,
they were in his vehicle, he'd drive them to remote wooded areas. There, he'd attack them with whatever weapon he had available: axes, hammers, screwdrivers.
Came for the tourney?
Journey.
it's just sad, bro. Like, these dudes combined already
Knives.
killed at least about 300 people.
He'd rape them, mutilate them, and leave their bodies in forests, along roadsides, or in cemeteries. Some victims had over 150 stab wounds. The brutality was so extreme that Russian media nicknamed him the werewolf and the Angarsk maniac. What makes Popkov's case even more disturbing is that he investigated his own crimes. He was assigned to work on cases involving missing women and bodies that he himself had left behind. He'd interview suspects, handle evidence from his own crime scenes, and participate in
That's what I'm saying. Like, if he did that, wouldn't they see his DNA on the girls and stuff like that? You know what I'm saying? And like the areas he did it on, things like that, like the stab wounds, you know, where he did sexually. Like, wouldn't they see the DNA on the people so they'll know he did it?
police discuss
Because if it's like, I mean, unless he was the only one doing the case, but if he's not, then other people will be there, so they'll, you know, detectives and stuff, so they'll be able to see it, the evidence.
discussions
and they'll
about the
see that
killer
it's
they
him.
were hunting.
And then they'll probably see, like, you know, DNA of him on the girl, or, you know, maybe some like hair that he dropped or whatever.
He was literally investigating himself. Popkov later claimed he was motivated by a perceived infidelity. In 1992, he believed he caught his wife having an affair. Though she denied it, Popkov became consumed with rage toward women he deemed.
Bro, I low-key think I've seen this before, but it was like a school, like, feel me? But it was like a guy that, like, he would go to parks and see, like, couples, and, like, every female he's seen, he'll, feel me? So, I think that's, like, kind of like the same thing here, then. But I don't understand how you got cheated on and then you hate women. So now you just kill every woman. Like, I don't, how does that, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like that's just unrealistic, though. Like, you would think that they would just hate that specific woman at worst, or at best.
Immoral. He saw himself as a cleaner, purging the streets of prostitutes and women living what he considered debauched lives. For years, police had no leads. Bodies kept appearing, but the killer seemed impossible to catch. Then, investigators noticed a pattern. Tire tracks from a Lada 4x4, a vehicle commonly used by police, kept appearing at crime scenes. That's when they decided to DNA test current and former officers. Popkov's DNA matched evidence from multiple murders.
Like, I thought that it doesn't even have to be the police. I thought they would DNA test the like the evidence, stuff like that. But this was back then, though.
Confronted, Popkov confessed, not just to a few murders, but to dozens. In 2015, he was convicted of 22 murders and sentenced to life in prison. Then, in 2017, He confessed to 59 more killings.
Yeah,
He was
bro.
convicted of 56 additional murders in 2018, receiving
Yo,
a
bro.
second life sentence. The man who'd been trusted to protect his community, who attended police functions and was described by colleagues as funny and charming, had been one of history's most prolific serial killers. His wife and daughter had no idea.
And he had
His
a
colleagues
daughter
had
and
no
a
idea.
wife
He'd hidden in plain
doing
sight
all
for
this.
18
So you mean to tell me he got cheated on, right? So he went and he had hate towards all women. So he killed many women, you know what I'm saying? Did sexual acts to them and all that while having a wife and a kid. So what I don't so how did he, you know what I'm saying? Like, you hate women but you have a wife and a kid. And the kid is a girl, so how did
years,
I don't
using his
understand
badge as both a
the point of
shield
that.
and a weapon. Mikhail Popkov is now 60 years old, serving his sentence in Russia's Black Dolphin prison, one of the country's most brutal facilities. He'll spend the first 15 years in solitary confinement, and he'll never leave prison alive. Gennady Mikosevich, the volunteer officer killer. Between 1971 and 1985, the city of Vitebsk in the Soviet Union was terrorized by a serial killer targeting young women. 36 women were confirmed
Bro, it's
murdered,
like all these are just women, bro. Men killing women.
though the real number may be closer to 60. They were raped, strangled, and left in
It's like
various
literally the
locations.
same cycle of the same thing, bro. Do you kidnap them, do the acts, kill them, and then leave them somewhere.
Around the city. The police had suspects, they had confessions, they even had convictions. There was just one problem. They had the wrong people. Gennady Mikosevich was a volunteer police officer, a member of the Voluntary People's Druzhina, a citizen patrol organization in the USSR. He was often assigned to investigate the very murders he'd committed. He'd interview suspects, handle evidence, and participate in case discussions. And when the pressure mounted to solve the crimes, he helped ensure other men took the fall. 13 innocent men were arrested and convicted for Mikosevich's murders.
So that's crazy to think. Like, this police officer literally killed people and then interviewed people and blamed them and arrested them so he can murder more people. Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, that's insane.
12 were sent to forced labor camps in Siberia.
Like, it's just like crazy to even think that, bro. Like, there's people probably in jail right now that are in there for something that they didn't do in a police
Brutal
officer
gulags where many died.
did it.
One
Or,
man
like,
was
even if they
tortured
didn't
into
do it.
confessing, then executed
You know
by
what I'm saying? Like, bro, that's insane, bro. He killed people, then he did the case. He would interview people, blame them, and then apparently, and he'll arrest them. And apparently, he tortured this guy into admitting that he killed somebody that he didn't even kill, that he killed, and then they killed him after. You know what I'm saying?
firing squad for a crime he didn't commit.
Yeah, bro,
Mikosevich
that's
watched
insane.
it all happen and
And
said
he
nothing.
watched it and
He
said
kept
nothing.
killing. What makes Mikosevich's
And kill people after this.
case particularly horrifying is how he manipulated the Soviet justice system. He knew exactly how investigations worked, how confessions were obtained, how cases were built. He used that knowledge to frame others, to deflect suspicion, and to continue his crimes for 14
I just
years.
don't understand how he framed all these people if they weren't even there. You know what I'm saying? Like, how did they get framed for that if they weren't even there? And how did he frame this many people? Like, if it was, unless it's like all different cases, because if it's only one case, there's no way he blamed all these people and they all got arrested.
But eventually, investigators began to notice patterns. Despite having different suspects in custody, the murders continued. The methods
what I'm
were too
saying.
similar, too consistent.
That's what I was thinking too. Because if they're all locked up and they're supposed to be the ones that killed him, but it's still happening, then they have the wrong person.
To be the work of multiple killers. Someone realized that all these crimes had to be connected, committed by a single person. Worried that he was about to be discovered, Mikosevich tried one last
again.
manipulation. He sent an anonymous letter to police, signed Patriot of Vitebsk, claiming that the murders were the result of the corruption of Soviet society. He thought this would throw investigators off his trail, or make them dismiss the cases as political rather than criminal. It backfired spectacularly. Police
Damn.
began analyzing handwriting samples from every man in the region. They
Yeah.
compared the anonymous letter to writing samples from over
Handwriting
500,000
samples?
males in the oblast. The analysis pointed
500,000.
directly to Gennady Mikosevich. When confronted with the evidence, Mikasevich confessed. He admitted to 36 murders and described how he'd used his position as a volunteer officer to commit the crimes and cover his tracks. He showed
This is
no remorse
crazy,
for the
bro.
innocent men he'd
Like,
sent
these
to
people are
labor
supposed to protect us, and there's literally people out here literally killing people and then blaming other people and then getting them executed because of what they didn't even do. Like, that's just crazy to think.
camps, or the one who'd been executed. Mikasevich was sentenced to death and sent to prison. Reports indicate he committed suicide while awaiting execution, though some accounts suggest he may have been killed by other inmates or guards who were disgusted by his crimes and his betrayal of the badge. His case became the first serial killer case publicly acknowledged by Soviet state media. For years, the USSR had denied that serial killers even existed within their borders, claiming such crimes were a product of capitalist society. Mikasevich's arrest and confession shattered that propaganda and revealed the deep corruption within Soviet law enforcement. At least 36 families lost daughters, sisters, and mothers to a man who wore a police uniform, and
it's
13
only females that he killed too, bro. And then these are 13 people that. So he killed 36 females, and then these people, the men that got arrested for quote unquote doing the murders, lost their family too.
innocent men had their
In their
lives
town.
destroyed by that same man, sent
And,
to
yeah, probably
gulags,
sometimes
or
too.
executed for crimes they never committed. Justice came too late for all of them. Antoinette Frank, the officer who killed for money, March 4th,
That's what I
1995.
be saying too. Money is so dangerous, bro. Like, there's people that kill for money, rob for money, steal for money. Like, it's just so crazy to think like money is just so valuable to people that they'll literally risk their own life to get it, and risk other people's lives and put their life in danger, and put other people's life in danger, put their whole life on the line just for some money that they could have gotten by just being patient and giving it to God and just allowing Him to do what He does, man. Like, it's just crazy to think.
New Orleans, Louisiana. Police responded to a shooting at the Kim Ann restaurant in New Orleans East.
Imagine being
When they arrived, they found 3 people dead. Officer Ronald Williams, who'd been working security at the restaurant, and siblings Kwang Vu and Ha Vu, members of the family that owned the establishment.
RP to them.
It
And RP to the other guy that died just before this guy right here.
appeared to be a robbery gone wrong. But when investigators started piecing together the evidence, they discovered something shocking. The killer wasn't a stranger. It was Antoinette Frank, a New Orleans Police Department officer who'd been working with Williams that night. And this wasn't her first time robbing the Kim Ann restaurant.
Oh.
Antoinette Frank had joined the NOPD in 1993, despite multiple red flags during her psychological evaluation and background.
That's what I'm saying, bro. Like, y'all just be letting anybody get hired, bro. Like, she literally has bad things in her evaluation and her background, and y'all still
check. She'd failed the psychological screening twice
and
was
failed the screening. I don't even know what that is, but
noted to have poor impulse control and questionable judgment. But the department
come
was
on, bro.
desperate for officers and hired
that's
her
the problem, bro. Desperality is also a problem too, bro. And this is for like any job, bro. Like, y'all be desperate to hire people or not have enough sales or whatever. So now you just hire anybody, and then now you putting everybody else's life in danger. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just not even worth it, bro. If you don't have nobody else to hire, bro, then just shut the business down, bro. That's what I'm saying. The same thing with money, bro. It's like, it's just money. That's the reason why they hire her, bro. Because if they have less people, they'll get less money, so they won't be able to support their whatever they're doing, whatever job they have. So now they're gonna need more people. If they don't get no more people, then they lose money. Now they gotta be on the streets or whatever,
anyway.
or
It was a
find another
decision
job.
that would cost 3 people their lives. Frank had befriended the Vu family, who owned the restaurant, and she'd often stop by while on patrol. She seemed
Okay.
friendly, trustworthy. In reality, she was casing the place. In November 1994, Frank and her accomplice, Rogers Lacaze, had already robbed the restaurant once. The Vu family never
Rob a
reported
restaurant, dude? I never knew people rob restaurants, bro. Like, like, not just like stealing the food. You're actually going to the register and stealing money from the restaurant.
it because they didn't want trouble with the police. But Frank wasn't
And they didn't report it because they didn't want to.
satisfied. She
I mean, you're getting robbed by the police, so I don't even know what I would do either.
decided to rob them again,
calling the
this
police
time
ain't
with
gonna do
Lacaze. On the night of March 4th, Frank was supposed to be on duty patrolling with Officer Ronald Williams. Instead, she arranged to meet Lacaze at the restaurant for another robbery. When Frank and Lacaze entered the Kim An restaurant, they didn't know that Williams was inside working a security detail. When Williams saw Frank with Lacaze and realized what was happening, Frank made a choice. She shot her fellow officer in the head, killing him instantly. Then she and Lacaze murdered Quang Vu and Ha Vu to eliminate witnesses. What Frank didn't know was that someone had survived. Chow Vu, a sibling, had hidden in a walk-in cooler during the shooting. After Frank and Lacaze fled, Chow emerged and called 911. When police arrived at the scene, Frank had the audacity to return in her patrol car, pretending to respond to the call like any other officer. She walked into the crime scene and asked what happened, trying to appear shocked and concerned.
Because she's seen it, so that shit ain't gonna work.
But Xiao Vu identified her immediately. Frank was arrested on the spot. The evidence against her was overwhelming. Ballistics matched her service weapon to the murders. Lacaze confessed and implicated her. Witnesses placed her at the scene. In September 1995, Antoinette Frank was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder and armed robbery. She was sentenced to death. For over 25 years, Frank has been on death row at the Louisiana Correctional Institute for Women, one of only 2 women on Louisiana's death row. She's exhausted most of her appeals. She maintains her innocence, claiming she was framed, but the evidence against her remains irrefutable. Antoinette Frank represents one of the most brazen examples of a police officer using their badge not just to kill, but to rob and murder for financial gain. She betrayed her fellow officer, killed innocent people, and then tried to investigate her own crime scene. She was 23 years old when she committed these murders, making her one of the youngest cops-turned-killers in American history. She's now 52, still waiting for an execution date that may or may not ever come.
Well, I just don't see the point. That's all I gotta say.
Norbert Poelke, the Hammer Killer, March 1984, Germany. Police officer Norbert Poelke's daughter died from cancer, leaving his family devastated and buried under approximately $400,000 in medical debt. Poelke was a veteran officer with years of service, a respected
and by the way, bro, $400,000. The police only get paid. Well, I don't know when this was, but I think nowadays police only get paid 100 to 150K a year.
Member of his community, but the financial pressure broke something inside him. Between May 1984 and October 1985, a series of eerily similar crimes terrorized West Germany. A masked assailant would rob banks using a specific method. He'd smash the teller window with a sledgehammer, demand money, then flee in a stolen car. Hours or days later, the owner of that stolen car would be found dead, shot in the head, usually in a wooded area near the bank. It happened at least 3 times, and investigators realized they were dealing with a serial killer. But this wasn't a typical serial killer motivated by psychological.
The bank. Well, first, you have to kill the person first to get the car. So you'll kill the person, rob the bank, get the car, and then do it again. Pretty much. So you can get $400,000. I don't, because it's like you have to realize if you rob the bank, you don't keep the money, so you just threw your life away pretty much. That's what I'm saying with money, bro. You threw your life away, right, for $400,000 that you're not even going to get. No, I just don't. And then now you traumatize families, you know what I'm saying? Now they lost their kid, brother, sister, and now your family loses you. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, what did you gain? You just lost your freedom, over $400,000 in debt that you didn't even get to keep from the bank. I just don't see the point.
Logical compulsion or sexual gratification. This was someone killing to cover their tracks during robberies, someone methodical and calculating. The police investigation was extensive. They analyzed the crime scenes, the ballistics, the patterns, and slowly, the evidence began pointing in a direction no one wanted to believe, toward one of their own. Norbert Poelke fit the profile. He had access to weapons. He knew how investigations worked. He understood forensics and crime scene analysis. And he desperately needed money. When investigators dug deeper, they found connections between Poelke and the crimes. Before police could arrest him, Poelke made his final choice. He committed suicide, leaving behind a note that many interpreted as a confession, though he never explicitly admitted to the murders. His
RP to him.
death ended the investigation and closed the cases, but it left many questions unanswered. Investigators believe Powielki was responsible for at least 3 murders connected to his bank robberies, possibly more. His family's financial desperation had driven him to robbery, and his need to avoid capture had
I mean,
turned
I could see why he robbed it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because I feel like it's. I mean, I don't feel like it's realistic, but it's like it kind of makes sense. But I just don't see why he killed people and stole cars and stuff like that. Like, I don't understand the point of that. Like, what he came from.
him into a killer. What's particularly tragic about Powielki's case is how it started. He wasn't a sadistic psychopath or a power-hungry predator. He was a father trying to pay for his daughter's
That's what I'm
medical
saying.
treatment, a man crushed by debt in a system that failed his family. But that doesn't excuse what he became. He murdered innocent people, stealing their
That's what I'm saying.
cars
You
and
don't
their
have to kill the people. Like, at least if you're going to do something dumb, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm not going to advise you to rob the bank, but at least just don't hurt people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you didn't even get the money. So it's like, what did you gain? You didn't get the money. Even if you stayed alive, you would have lost your freedom either way. So you wouldn't have your freedom regardless. So it was just no point in doing it. You should just figure something out. Find a job or something. I mean, I don't think. I mean, you already had a job, but I don't think police is gonna help you get it $400,000. I'm gonna be honest with you, but shit, I don't know, man. Pray. You could do something. Bro.
lives, just
You even have to kill people bro,
to cover up his robberies.
and rob.
Norbert Pielke's case serves as a dark reminder that even those who start with understandable motivations can descend into unforgivable acts. The badge he wore was meant to protect people. Instead, he used his knowledge as an officer to kill them and evade justice. His suicide meant he never faced trial, never answered for his crimes, and never gave his victims' families the closure they deserved. Joseph DeAngelo, the Golden State Killer, April 24th, 2018.
This is crazy, bro. You just never expect a police officer, and they got a police ad, bro. You just never expect a police officer to do this. But I just feel like everybody can't be like every job has somebody evil, bro.
Whether you're
You know what I'm saying?
registering a business,
That's how it is.
A quiet suburban neighborhood in
Wait a minute,
Sacramento,
yeah,
California. Police surrounded a modest home and
No, yeah,
arrested a
I see.
72-year-old former mechanic named Joseph
72.
DeAngelo. His neighbors described him as a grumpy old man who yelled at people to stay off his lawn. They had absolutely no idea they'd been living next to one of California's most prolific serial killers for decades. Between 1974 and
How did you not know?
1986, DeAngelo terrorized California under multiple names: the Visalia Ransacker, the East Area Rapist, the Original Night Stalker, and eventually the Golden State Killer. He committed at least 13 murders, over 50 rapes, and more than 120 burglaries.
How do y'all not know this, bro?
He committed at least 13 murders, over 50 rapes, and more
Like nothing, like nobody, like I don't understand. 120 burglaries, so that means none of y'all knew who it was, or even said anything. He got away with this many, which I don't even understand how's possible, and this. Like, come on, bro. It's just like, yeah.
than 120 burglaries across the
It's a crazy
state.
world, bro.
He'd break into homes in the middle of the night, wake couples at gunpoint, bind them with elaborate knots, and assault them for hours. He'd eat food
Like-
from their refrigerator.
But what do you gain from this? Like, you're literally breaking in people's houses, right? You tie them up, you beat them up, and then you eat their food out their refrigerator, bro. I don't understand.
There's-
Like, you're acting like you can't get whatever you're eating in the refrigerator, you can go buy, and you get the same thing,
Steal random items and sometimes call
and you'll steal items
victims months later just to taunt them.
and call them. They didn't have no evidence of this. Like, if they calling you, you could just
What makes
use the number, tell the police the number, and
this
go on
case
about your day.
particularly disturbing is
From
what
that-
DeAngelo was doing during many of these attacks. He was a police officer, first with the Exeter Police
Well, I mean,
Department,
he's a police officer,
then
but still.
with the Auburn Police Department. By day, he was investigating burglaries and patrolling neighborhoods. By night, he was committing the exact crimes he was supposed to be solving. DeAngelo used his police training to perfection. He knew how to avoid detection, how to cover his tracks, how investigations worked. He'd study his victims for weeks, learning their schedules, their habits, their vulnerabilities. He was meticulous, calculated, and seemingly untouchable. His law enforcement career ended in 1979 when he was fired from the Auburn Police Department for shoplifting a hammer and dog repellent from a store.
Yo,
Ironically, these were tools he likely planned to use in his crimes. But even after losing his badge,
Dog repellent?
D'Angelo didn't stop. He continued killing until 1986, then vanished into suburban anonymity for 32 years. What finally caught him? DNA and genetic genealogy. In 2018, investigators uploaded crime scene DNA to a public genealogy database, found distant relatives, built a family tree, and it led them straight
Well,
to
that's just
D'Angelo.
kinda crazy.
When police surveilled him and collected his DNA from a discarded item, it was a perfect match. The man who'd used his badge as a weapon, who'd terrorized an entire state while wearing a uniform, had finally been caught by the very technology he never could have imagined. Joseph D'Angelo pleaded guilty in 2020 to 13 counts of murder and multiple kidnappings. He's serving multiple life sentences without the possibility of parole. He's 80 years old now, and the families of his victims finally have justice, though it came 4 decades too late. If you'd like to see more stories like this,
Bro, this, I hope the families are doing good, bro. You know, it's just crazy to think like people that are supposed to be protecting you could really be the ones that kill you, bro. But y'all just be on point, man. Make sure y'all paying attention to y'all surroundings. Um, man, yeah, just keep grinding. I love y'all. Got another video tonight. But yeah, y'all stay safe out there, man. Crazy world we live in.